There is still plenty of FUD going around, though, surrounding cryptocurrency in general. What is interesting is in the past, I've always talked about really Bitcoin becoming a battle between nations, right? It's a battle between banks, but then it becomes a battle between nations. And I think we are starting to see this kind of battle start to play out surrounding Silicon primarily, right? Because it's not so much surrounding Bitcoin specifically, but because of the infrastructure surrounding Bitcoin, it's starting to be a security concern at a national level. And we can see that here with US officials saying they're worried a Chinese-owned Bitcoin mine in Wyoming will pose a national security threat. This is really interesting. Pentagon officials monitoring a Bitcoin operation in Wyoming that sits across from a Microsoft data center and a nearby military base are worried that owners' ties to China could pose a national security threat, per the New York Times. Microsoft believed the location could allow the Chinese government to, quote, pursue full spectrum intelligence collections operations, end quote, directed at the data center and the Francis E. Warren Air Force Base, which houses ICBMs. The crypto mining operation first came under the US government's purview after a team at Microsoft submitted a report to the Committee on Foreign Investment in August 2022. The team believed the mining operation had the potential to collect information from the data center, which supports the operational needs of the Pentagon, the Times reported. Quote, Microsoft has no direct indications of malicious activities by the entity, end quote, Microsoft wrote, per the Times. However, pending further discovery, we suggest the possibility that the computing power of an industrial-level crypto mining operation, along with the presence of an unidentified number of Chinese nationals in direct proximity to Microsoft's data center and one of 3 strategic missile bases in the US, provides significant threat vectors. Now, here's the question that I have, because if we are talking about cryptocurrency mining from the perspective of Bitcoin, the compute power doesn't seem to be that much of a threat, in my humble opinion, because you have application-specific integrated circuits. I think there would be more of a threat in general, right, if we had more general compute, meaning CPU, GPU, that sort of thing. So if you had a GPU mining farm or a significant amount there, then I would definitely be a little bit more concerned surrounding the type of equipment. But of course, you know, with that close proximity, I'm not sure exactly what they are alluding to here. I mean, other than, of course, they're sharing the same backends, right, that sort of thing. So there could be attack vectors from there, less secure as far as the locality goes there, because they're probably running off the same backbone, essentially, that sort of thing. What do you guys think? Is there a threat there? I think the biggest threat, of course, is utilizing that power for the profits of the Chinese government, right? And it's a really interesting concept here, but we do know that a lot of companies within China don't act outside of government rulings, meaning that the Chinese government is fully aware and approves every movement that specific companies within China make because of the way that the government is basically formed. And so if there was approval by that company to operate within the US, on the flip side, still, of course, all of the bans for Bitcoin mining in China, what is the strategic play from that perspective? Is it basically gain wealth through mining Bitcoin while utilizing, of course, power of basically a competitor, a competing nation like the United States? Does that mean that you're basically able to utilize power or a grid from a different nation state, but then profit off of it? How much can the US really regulate that? And what are the other attack vectors here? It says in 2021, China banned the resource-intensive practice of Bitcoin mining, which is what we just discussed. Businesses in the cryptocurrency market scrambled to establish themselves in other countries, including the US. The Times identified mines in 12 states that were owned by Chinese nationals. Per the outlet, some had ties to the Chinese government, some did not, and others could not be easily traced. Of course, I don't think that some did not. I think pretty much every company that has ties to the Chinese government, if they're from China, almost 100% guaranteed. The Cheyenne, Wyoming Center was such one such mine per the Times. The Times reported that the mining operation is linked to 5 different companies, with one company, BitOrigin Limited, previously registered as a pork processing company in the Cayman Islands. Li Jingming, I think I said that correct, the president of BitOrigin Limited, said that the Microsoft data center or the nearby military base had nothing to do with why the area was chosen. Instead, the mine was placed there because a local utility company agreed to work with BitOrigin, which totally makes sense. Quote, even though we are a Microsoft neighbor and a couple of miles from the base, without power is nothing. The business cannot succeed, he told the Times. Officials who spoke with the Times cited concerns that the mines, which use an immense amount of electricity in their operations, would be used to purposefully overwhelm electrical grids to cause planned blackouts and complete other cyber attacks. So I guess this is the angle that they're taking, is that because of the amount of power that a Bitcoin mine utilizes, they could potentially suck up a bunch of the power and shut down the grid. If you are close to a military base as well as close to the Microsoft data center, I would assume the Microsoft data center at this point is utilizing a lot more power than, of course, this Chinese mining farm, just, based off of the amount of power that Azure cloud is pushing out at this point. I would assume that they're way above what a Bitcoin mining farm is. That seems like a very tough practice if you shut it down, right, you're kind of hurting yourself as far as you're not maintaining profitability. I guess there would be some sort of subsidizing act by the Chinese government to help do that. I don't see that being a big deal. Now, cyber attacks, as far as being able to once again leverage that backbone, or the same backbone that Base utilizes as well as Microsoft, and be able to somehow do some sort of attack via compute power, possibly. But if it is just a Bitcoin mining farm, that compute power is not going to translate over to anything. Like even a brute force attack wouldn't be something that a Bitcoin mining ASIC is going to be capable of, at least, to my knowledge, because we would have to point out that Bitmain does manufacture these things. Is there some sort of backdoor, some sort of other purpose for these miners? Well, at that point, we're all in trouble, and we should have remained ASIC resistant, right? U.S. officials have expressed growing concern that the Chinese government is attempting to target and disrupt U.S. military operations. In July, the Times reported military officials identified Chinese malware that could disrupt power, water, and communications to military bases. An interesting article. I do think that overall there will be a fight for power and control over cryptocurrency. Obviously, volume control over Bitcoin will be a big play here. And I think everybody, obviously BlackRock's already seeing this happen. I think we even saw some people with BlackRock saying that they would have something like ridiculous, like $31 million Bitcoin or some craziness after ETFs are deployed. I don't think I necessarily agree with that. I still don't understand BlackRock's strategy here, other than the fact that I think that BlackRock sees that Bitcoin's here to stay, and the more Bitcoin you control, probably the more industry you will control in the future, right? The more, basically the more powerful you'll be economically. And that will be, a factor. That does bring up the fact, of course, with me, does Bitcoin really solve any of the problems that we're trying to solve if someone buys up a majority of the Bitcoin? I don't know. Is there something better we could do down the line? Are there different things, different cryptocurrencies that will eventually come along that solve this issue? It is what it is, right? At the end of the day, it still becomes a supply and demand issue. The only benefit to Bitcoin over the rest is that it's transparent, which is definitely going to help, I think. But even if it's transparent and one person owns a majority of it, then it still has the same problems that we have today. Only difference being, as opposed to it all being printed, it's dependent on how much you already control. Anyways, just some thoughts. Now, there's an interesting thing happening with, I think, the Lightning Network here. Well, we'll talk about that. First, let's talk about the Silk Road hacker who accidentally showed feds $70 million worth of Bitcoin on his laptop before being arrested. Police body cam footage shows the Silk Road hacker opening up a laptop with thousands of Bitcoin on it in front of federal investigators, not realizing he was incriminating himself. James Zong was charged by the US government last year for stealing more than 50,000 Bitcoin from the illicit online marketplace Silk Road in 2012. I mean, it's kind of funny that you have basically somebody getting in trouble for stealing from people that were doing illegal activities in general. In 2019, after his house was broken into, Zong called the police to inform them, despite having mountains of incriminating evidence laying around in his home. Zong revealed over the phone that he was an investor in Bitcoin, putting himself on the radar of investigators. At the same time, the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit was painstakingly trying to solve the Silk Road hack of 2013, analyzing details of its on-chain paper trail. Ultimately, an investigator from the blockchain analytics firm Chain Analysis, who was hired by the government, noticed that an address associated with the Silk Road hacker accidentally performed KYC routine with a crypto exchange, revealing Zong's name and home address months after his 911 call. With help from Sean Magruder, there we go, CEO of a cyber intelligence company, Blocktrace, the IRS created a plan to enter Zong's home and talk to him under the auspices of investigating the break and enter that he had reported earlier. Once inside, Zong made the grave mistake of telling investigators he was a Bitcoin OG and that he had 1,500 Bitcoin sitting on one laptop alone, which he then proceeded to show investigators on camera. Says Magruder of Blocktrace, quote, lo and behold, he had 60 or $70 million worth of Bitcoins right there next to us. It was also revealed that Zong was one of the earliest contributors to the development of Bitcoin and routinely posted advice and suggestions on online forums for how to improve the Bitcoin protocol. Investigators returned the following day, still under the pretext that they were helping him, but instead executed a search warrant. Using a dog trained to find computer hardware, the agents found the wallets with the addresses to the 50,000 Bitcoin, once worth over $3 billion US dollars, sitting in a safe buried in concrete underneath Zong's basement floor. Zong was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in prison for his role in the Silk Road hacking incident. Absolutely insane. I don't even think I need to talk about, I don't have anything to say. I'm at a loss for words on this in general. Someone that apparently has like pretty high level intelligence as far as working on Bitcoin, being involved for that long, etc., ends up in a position where he hacks Silk Road, which are bad guys in the first place, I suppose, and then stores that and then KYCs himself. It's just insanity. And it goes to show you that any of us can make these mistakes over and over again too. And I'm not saying that, you should break the law, etc. And that is the reason why you should be careful with KYC, but you should be careful with KYC for a lot of other reasons. First of all, it's your right to privacy. You should maintain that, your sovereign right to basically maintain your own keys and etc. But, at the end of the day, like, there are other things like going on here that you should pay attention to, essentially, is my point. And even the most intelligent of people that have been in Bitcoin for a long time make kind of silly mistakes. But it's crazy to me too that he was even participating within this in the first place. Doesn't seem like a very strong sentence. A year and a day doesn't seem that crazy. I'm sure there's some plea deals that are going on there, maybe some help to reveal, more people that were utilizing Silk Road is what I would assume is going on here. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Also, you can get around a lot of this by frankly, memorizing your seed phrase and just destroying all the evidence. And there we go. Put on a list. It's okay. I've probably been on a list for a long time. That is not something that you should do to commit illegal activities, but to protect your cryptocurrency from potential hackers, etc. Okay. That dog must be an amazing dude too. Like, that dog smelled under concrete, bro, and then fucking pulled that shit out. That's amazing, man. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. You can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.